I hope you're not hungry, because by this finishes, you will be. That's because a whole bunch of the words that come into English from French are food words, because the French have a whole bunch of words for food and cheeses and wines and a whole bunch of different terminologies for those things. So a lot of the words that we'll be looking at today and seeing pictures of are various foods. Today is a spelling bee workshop, or just a spelling workshop. Who wants to do the spelling bee ever, or has done the spelling bee? Ooh, great, lots of hands, fun. So, a spelling workshop, looking at words that came into English from French, and looking at also how we might possibly spell them, and figure out how to spell them, and why they're spelled the way they are. So, fun fact, there are around 17,000 or so words in English that came from French. That's a lot of words, right? Yeah? So, does anyone happen to remember around how many words came into English from Greek from last week's lesson? Trivia. Not important. Yeah?
13,000?
Yes, awesome. So around 13,000 words just from Greek in English. So the slight discrepancy happens because words that we are or aren't counting that have other languages in them or might have Greek influence but aren't from Greek. Anyway. Words from French. So just to give you an idea of where France is, it's in Europe. Right over here you have the United Kingdom, Great Britain. There is mainland Europe, you have Germany, Spain over here, Italy, that sort of area, which makes a whole bunch of sense. I'll get to it on the next slide. Notable French things that you may have seen. Who's seen the Eiffel Tower before? Good, alright. In school or at home? Various places? Yeah? Okay. And then the Louvre Museum, which is also a notable French attraction. And then this picture that I found is a pretty good job of summarizing a whole bunch of French things. So you have the Eiffel Tower in the middle, which is, of course, one of the things you think about when you hear France. But then you have wine, snail, cheese, poodle, croissant, baguette, breads, foods, perfume, right? Flags, grapes. So can you guys find any commonalities in these things? No? For starters, they're all French. So, one of the key things about French words is that they're all about pronunciation. And that's because, back in the place where we had like Latin and Greek, right? And they're all arising out of that same range in Europe. But so French is a derivative of Latin. It's one of the Romance languages, as we call them. So a lot of the words in French can be traced back to Latin roots and Latin parts, like we discussed in the Latin workshop. But the words are pronounced drastically differently. So they sound very different. So most of the French words that we got in English came in around from, say, the year 1100 or so, going into, say, the 1600s or the 1700s. Because that's when French words really bled into English. It was periods like the Renaissance, where you're looking at new artwork, new food, a whole bunch of bleeding between cultures. And so just a quick beginning. Similarities between French words. Cake. Who likes cake? I like cake. But, so, ganache, right? Chocolate ganache cake. Has anyone ever had a chocolate ganache cake? It's like this frosted icing. So, panache. Who's had to do like a word like panache in school vocab? Yeah? Alright. They're probably decreasing vocab, I don't know, because SAT is changing, but anyway. This is old SAT vocab study, all of which spelling bee was very helpful for. But, what's the similarity between these two words? Yeah?
They both have starting from A, the rest of the letters are the same.
Yeah. So, A-C-H-E. Both of them end in A-C-H-E, right? So, how do you pronounce that? Yeah?
Ash.
Ash. Good. Not like ache, right? Because if you had just A-C-H-E in English, that's when you have like a bellyache or a tummy ache, or something hurts, right? But in French, when you have A-C-H-E at the end of a word, it's an ash sound. So let's go ahead and write that on the board. A-C-H-E. Can anyone read this? Should I write it bigger? Alright, good. So, is pronounced ash. Like the tree or the soot. So, When you have panache and ganache, they mean really different things, right? But they both have that one sound. And so if you hear another word in French that has the ash sound, you know it's going to be spelled not ASH, but rather ACHE. Because that's like a trend in French. So what I'll do is, I'll go over a few different like roots or word parts that have similar spellings and particular pronunciations. And then we're going to look at a few different words that have those roots, or don't, and pictures of them to help you remember both the word, the way it's spelled, and kind of how it was formed. Alright? So just starting with a little bit of the boring sides. Aid, right? Blockade. Has anyone seen a barricade? Yeah? It's like a fence of sorts. So you can block people from going down a road, for example, if you've seen construction on the roads. So that's a barricade or a blockade, right? You can have a ballotade, a cannonade. So a ballotade, what's the first part of the word? Ballot, right. So what's a ballot? Yeah?
It's like somewhere where you put like tickets on.
Yeah, it's like a ticket, right? So it's basically a vote. So a ballotade is when you have a leap performed by a horse. So that one doesn't have to do with votes. Wait, or does it? You can check. I may have copy-pasted it wrong. Let's check this. Ah, it's a horse. So I didn't copy-paste it wrong. It was right. So a ballotade doesn't actually have anything to do with tickets, which is interesting. And that gets into the part where, you have Latin roots, but they changed. So a ballotade has to do with ballot, small ball. Because you have a horse and it's jumping. Interesting fun fact. Now, back to this. A cannonade, however, does come from cannon, right? You have a firing of artillery in considerable quantity. But then you have escapade, or escapade. It's a daring act, right? And one of the things is, in these words with ADE, some of them are pronounced with aid, and some of them are pronounced with odd, and some of them have both. So that's one of the things to look at. We were discussing looking at the dictionary for the pronunciations, and so it's always important to know what the actual pronunciation is of the word. So the next section, you have bois, which means wood. So what's wood in English? Yes, trick question, good. Wood, right? In French, you have bois, which means wood. So you have words like boiserie, which means carved wood panel. So this is the pronunciation. So if you know how to read the pronunciation symbols, if you don't, go on over to one of the YouTube videos of my spelling bee workshops from last year. It's on the Friends with Library YouTube channel. And so you can look at Spelling with Syamantak, and I go over exactly how to read these pronunciation symbols. And then the next word is reboise, right? And it means to renew forest. So how do you renew forest? Yeah? Anyone else?
By planting new trees.
Yes, planting trees, right? So either you have trees that are already there that result in more trees, or you go in and manually plant new trees, right? So what's the beginning of the word reboise? Yeah?
R-E.
R-E. So what does R-E mean? Yeah?
To like repeat something?
Yes, to repeat something. And that's in the word repeat itself, right? So, stop. So, R-E, this is an R, E equals again. So, just like in Greek, how you can take different roots and put them together like puzzle pieces, you can sort of do the same thing in French too. So you have re meaning again, and then bois meaning wood. So you have wood again, because you're planting new trees, right? That makes sense, right? Great. So when you have these, you also have roots like age. So A-G-E, right? But it's not usually pronounced age. There are some words that don't come from French that have like Middle English that are pronounced age, but A-G-E in French is pronounced age. So let's look at the first word, badinage, right? Badinage means light and playful banter because it comes from the word badin, which means a joker or a fool. Okay? The second one, bavardage, means small talk or chit-chat. So a word like bavardage, right? If you didn't know how to spell this, it's actually fairly logical. the beginning has a ba, v, and I can go ahead and point this on here. So you have a ba, right? How do you think you could spell a ba? Yeah?
B-A.
B-A, right? You have a ba, v. How would you spell the v? Hmm?
V-A.
V-A. And then you have bavardage, right? So you have an RD sound, that's right here. That's an RD. And the trickiest part of this word is the aj. And the aj, just like we're talking here, is AGE, right? So what about the next one? Ballotage. This one, going back to the ballotade, it's tricky because this one actually does have to do with ballot, like the vote. So ballotage here is taking a second vote if the first one was inconclusive. Does that make sense? So here, you're completing ballot and then aj as action or process. Because the definition of aj goes along with the puzzle piece of whatever was coming before it. So you have ballot, which means a vote, and then aj, so the action or process. So it's the process of taking a second vote. And then you have the word cabotinage. It means behavior befitting a second-rate actor. So can you guys try to break this up? You don't know the French word, which is fine, because I didn't either. Anyone? Any attempts? Yes. Mm-hmm. So can you separate it into like two pieces? Yeah?
Cab.
Almost. So cab isn't anything on its own, but cabotin is. So splitting it with the aj, because we're talking about, how aj is a word part, a suffix, a root. So you can take aj out and you end up with cabotin. So just cabotin. And cabotin means a second-rate actor. Right? Because it's very logical. Behavior befitting a second-rate actor. Aj means action or process. So the aj of a cabotin is cabotinage, is the action of a cabotin, a second-rate actor. It gets a bit confusing, but it makes sense. Ready for some pictures? Bon. Who's heard the word or phrase bon appetit before? Yeah? Good. So if someone's telling you bon appetit, what are they talking about? Yeah? Food. What's the part of speech of the phrase, if that's not proper, but? Mm-hmm.
Appetite.
It has to do with appetite. So if someone says bon appetit to you, right, they're wishing you have a good time eating, basically, right? So bon appetit has to do with appetite and bon. So bon means good, all right? And so just like in Latin good was bene. So B-E-N-E. Let's write that on the board. So Latin, bene equals good. So can anyone think of words with bene? Yeah? Benefit, or beneficiary. So two related words. So you have benefit. What is a benefit? Anyway, just blur it out.
Something good happens to
Something good happens to you, right?
B-E-N-E-F-I-C-E.
Yes, B-E-N-F-I-C-E. Got it. So what is benefice? So benefice has to do with like a beneficiary, right? So a beneficiary is someone who benefits you, or someone who helps you out in some way. And so benefice is like the action. They're all related. So ben in French became bon. Like words like bonbon, right? So that was French, and then it came into English, and you have a word that means basically sweet. So it's anything like a chocolate-covered or fondant-covered sweet with nuts on the inside sometimes, or fruits. And that's a bonbon, because candy is good, right? Yeah, unless you're a dentist, in which case, never mind. And then you have a bonbonniere, which is a fancy box to keep bonbons in. So you can like give gifts that have these fancy candies in them, and the fancy box that it comes in, because fancy candies in a fancy box, is called a bonbonniere. Right? So bonbonniere comes from bon, good. And then eventually it got the yer added to it because that makes it kind of a box or a vessel. So something that you put bonbons in is a bonbonniere. Now the word on the right side. Embonpoint. Does anyone have any idea of what this means from the picture? Yeah?
Like a robber?
A robber. Good guess, but not exactly. I suppose that would be a logical guess, but not yet. Yeah?
Someone who eats a lot.
Someone who eats a lot. Very close. Yeah?
Someone who dresses well?
Someone who dresses well. Close also, because the literal meaning of embonpoint is in good condition. So en meaning in, bon meaning good, and point, condition. So the word embonpoint breaks up into em plus bon plus point. So you can see this. En means in. And on, em or en, both mean the same thing, in, because it came from the Latin root in. And so en means in, bon means good, and then point means condition or shape. So basically, someone who eats well, or eats too much in some cases, looks like this dude. So, one root with a whole bunch of words. EUR. Just like someone who eats a lot, someone who does something is called an EUR. Take a look at this and tell me if you've seen any of these words before. Yes, which one?
Chauffeur.
Chauffeur, yeah? And which one? Camoufleur, great. Anything else? Over there? Mm-hmm. Entrepreneur, great. And auteur. So basically, going down this, an auteur is a film director with a very distinctive style. A camoufleur is someone skilled in camouflage, which makes sense, right? Because camo, the same part, camouflage and camoufleur. Anything that you notice with this word based on the slide that we've done before? Should I go back to the slide? What does age mean? Action or process. What's at the end of camouflage? Age, right? So what do you think camo might mean? Yeah? To blind it, you say? So camo is, yeah? Kind of. So it's related to that. It's like concealing or like painting camo. So you have words like cameo that are related to that. It's when a famous person has like a short scene in a movie where they like appear and then disappear. So camo, and then someone who does the camouflage is a camoufleur. And then the action of making camouflage is camouflage. A chanteur. What does the word chanteur look like? If you take out the someone who does part. Chant. What does chant mean? To sing, basically, or like recite. So it would make sense that a chanter is a chanteur, right? Which brings me to the fact that EUR in French is basically the exact same thing as ER in English. It's raining markers. So, EUR, French, equals ER in English. Okay? So, think of a word with ER in English that's like someone who does something. Yeah? Driver. So what does a driver do? Drive, right? So you take drive and you add ER to it. You can take one of the E away because otherwise you'd have drivier, and we don't say drivier, we say driver, right? And so just like that, you have someone who chants, and that's a chanteur. But because of the fact that it's French, and like we said, French has weird pronunciation, we don't say chanteur, we say chanteur. Okay? So just like the other one where we had the osh, right? one of the other pages had ash, like panache and ganache, remember? So the CH didn't make the panache sound, or the panache sound, right? We had panache. Just like that, the CH in chanteur isn't chanter anymore, it's chanteur. Does that make sense? Alright. The next one, chauffeur. So a lot of you have seen this one before, right? And then you have coiffeur, a male hairdresser. And one of the interesting things that French has also is gender-specific nouns. So, for example, a coiffeur is a male hairdresser, and a coiffeuse is a woman hairdresser. And the pronunciations in these can vary slightly based on the French stuff. So like this one can be coiffeuse, or coiffeuse, or various other French pronunciations that I'm not very good at. But, so basically you have the male ending in an EUR, and you have an EUSE for the female ending. Any other words that you've seen that have EUR or EUSE? You had your hand raised. Did you have a question? Yes, good. So a masseur, what would a masseur be? Yeah. So what would a masseur do? Yeah? Amateur? Kind of. So amateur doesn't have to do with this. So amateur isn't gender specific because it's an adjective. So I'll put that up on it. But a masseur is someone who gives massages, right? Anyone notice anything with that? Ah, good. You're catching on. So a masseur, M-A-S-S-E-U-R, and then gives massages. So basically, you have the action ending, age, for the verb, right? The thing that you're doing, giving massages. And the person that's doing it is a masseur, if it's a male. And if it's a female, that becomes a masseuse. Right? Awesome. So you guys have seen the words masseur and masseuse before, right?
Yes.
So now you can make the connections. You have a masseur for the male, masseuse for the female, and they give massages because age is the action ending. It's very exciting, isn't it?
Yeah, but didn't it just say that AGE was the action, but this one's the EUR?
Yeah, so the EUR on the left is for the person that does it. So the EUR is the someone who does, right? So the person that does it is either EUR or EUSE, depending on the gender. And then the action word is the age on the other side. Right? And then you have connoisseur. So a connoisseur is someone who's an expert in a subject. What might a connoisseur be an expert in? Yeah?
Science.
I'm sorry? Science? Science, yeah?
Art.
Art, yeah? Yes?
Physics.
Physics, yeah? Math, awesome. All great things. Technology, you have art, you have food connoisseurs, right? Another word for a food connoisseur if you've ever have, yes?
Chef.
Chef, good, many chefs are food connoisseurs. And another interesting word for a food connoisseur, kind of specific, is epicure. So an epicure is someone who really likes food or has good taste. And then you have words like entrepreneur, right? Someone who has a business or enterprise. Any connections you notice? Enterprise, good. So, enterprise has the English beginning enter. You're entering into an enterprise. And entrepreneur has entre instead of enter. So when enter went into French, it became entre. They both come from the same place, the spelling changed. So in French, for example, you put the R before the E, entre instead of enter. And then challenge words. So can anyone try to spell the word colporteur, a peddler of books? Yeah?
CALPRETEUR.
Close. So, I like that you applied the R before E, or I think EUR. EUR is great. So this one incidentally doesn't have the R before the E, so it's a tricky one. It's actually more related to a porter. So has anyone seen like the word porter before? Yeah, so someone like carries luggage or stuff like that. So a colporteur is spelled C-O-L-P-O-R-T-E-U-R. Tricky word to know. Okay. So, monde, right? Another one of the interesting roots. And monde means world. So you have words like demimonde, right? Anyone happen to have read Percy Jackson? Yeah. So what is a word that describes the people that get to go into Camp Half-Blood? Demigods, right? Good. So what does demi mean? Half. Yeah. So what would demimonde mean? Half the world. And that's like the literal definition. So demimonde meaning half the world, the figurative definition, or the definition that we use, is an isolated class, group, or activity. So like a little culture in itself. So for example, you can have a music demimonde. And so that's like the half world of music. You can have map monde. What does the beginning look like? Map, yes. Except because it's a weird word, they decided to take the normal map and add another P and an E to it. Because why not, I guess. And you end up with the word map monde, right? But you knew this word now, so it's not hard anymore. Alright. So you have demi-monde and map monde. And then you have words like paysage. So pays means country, okay? Has anyone heard of food being cooked paysanne? Yeah, possibly. I hadn't heard of it, so I didn't know it either. But paysanne means food prepared in country style. Yeah. So you can have, for example, paysanne peas. And those are peas prepared simply in country style. Or you can have paysage, which is landscape. Or a paysagist, who is a landscape artist. Anything interesting that you notice here? No? Yeah?
So they both start with they both have the
Pace?
and the words in
Yeah. Yeah. Yes?
One seems to be a boy and the other a girl.
That would seem so, but they're actually both words for the same one. This is non-gender specific. But related to that, yeah? Yeah, one has an E, which is good to notice. So in this case, the interesting thing to notice about this is that contrary to the previous slide with year, the person who makes landscapes isn't actually a payseur, it's a paysagist. And the reason for that, anyone think of any other words with ist? Artist? Scientist? Yeah. Dentist, good. Yes. And what's another kind of dentist? Yeah? Orthodontist, good. So in Greek, we were discussing the word orthodontist, right? So dent and dont are the same thing. So let's put it up here. So you have dentist, right? Dentist. And orthodontist. So, who remembers the connection between those two words? Yeah? Yeah? IST. Anything else there?
They're both about sticking teeth.
Yes, both about teeth. Yeah?
Dent and dot both mean teeth.
Yes, good. Dent and dont both mean the same thing. So why are they spelled differently? Does anyone remember? Yeah? Close. So dentist is Latin and orthodontist is Greek. So when you had dent in Latin, became dont in Greek. And then, eventually, they came to English and had ist added to it. So what does ortho mean? Straight. Yes, good. So, in Greek we were talking about how ortho means straight, dont means tooth, and ist means someone who does. So an orthodontist is someone who makes their teeth straight, right? What do they use to make your teeth straight? Braces, good. So, a dentist is just someone who is a teeth doctor, basically. So, paysagist is interesting because it didn't become the person who makes paysages in French. It actually went into English, for example, first, and then had the ist added to it, which is why it has the same root as people like dentist or orthodontist. It means the same thing. It's a person who does something. So good thing to notice. Now, any random word that you can think of that's connected to monde. So I took a second off. Now I'm seeing if you can remember. What's something that's very boring or trite? It ends in ain. Yes, mundane, right? So something that's really mundane is really boring, right? Or really common. So mundane comes from the same root, M-U-N-D-A-N-E, as monde. So, what was the language that I said French comes from? It's what branch of language is it? Is it a Romance language? Yeah. So what language did the Romance languages come from? Yeah. Latin, good. So, mundane is from Latin. Latin, mundus, means world. French, mundus became monde. So, monde comes from mundus, which then went into English as mundane. So, mundane means something that's very boring because it's very common. It's of this earth. And you have monde, and the words that have monde. Interesting? Anyone find this interesting? I think it's pretty cool. Okay. Some final confusing words before we get to watch a video of me spelling. Wants to watch a video of me spelling? Yes, good. Okay, excited. So, these words, eri, is a thing that's done in some way, or a particular way of doing it. Alright? So, take a look at these. Which one of these words have you seen before? Yeah? The last one? Bizarrerie?
And then the boiserie.
Boiserie? Yeah? Anything else? Yes? Did you have your hand raised? Boiserie? Yeah? Anyone else? Yeah?
The
Japonaiserie. So, has anyone heard of the word camaraderie before? Yeah? So, what word is it related to? Did I hear comrade? Yes. Good. So, camaraderie is related to the word comrade. So if someone's your comrade, what are they? You're a friend, basically. So comrade, C-O-M-R-A-D-E, became, is related to the word camaraderie. Now, the way of doing something, the way of doing things as friends. So you would take comrade, put it into French, so it becomes camarade, and add the suffix for the way of doing something. So camaraderie is like a spirit of friendship, or a way of doing things as friends. Does that make sense? So you took comrade and added eri, because it's the way of doing things. The next one, bijouterie, right? Bijouterie is a collection of trinkets or ornaments. So eri is really interesting because it's kind of like a multi-purpose suffix. It has multiple meanings, even beyond things done or way of doing. So, has anyone heard of the word bijou before? Yeah? So, bijou means basically like trinkets. So, eri, drawing out of, things done in a particular way, it can also be like a collection of things. So what would a collection of bijou mean? Yeah? Trinkets. Basically, one trinket into many trinkets, a collection of trinkets. And what would you add to the word bijou to make it a collection? Eri. It's on the slide. So, bijouterie is a collection of bijoux. Chinoiserie is things done in a way that's reflective of, say, Chinese motifs. So you have French, Chine, which is a derivative of China or Chinese. Same thing with Japanese. You have Japon, Japonaiserie, and these are English words. They just sound really French because they came from French. So Chinoiserie and Japonaiserie both describe, ways of doing things, or art, or drawing, that came from, say, Chinese styles or Japanese styles. And you have boiserie. Who remembers the first part of this word from a slide that we did? Yes. So what does it mean? Wood. So boiserie means carved wood paneling, right? And why? Why does it mean that? Can I break it up? Yeah? So bois means wood, and then eri means things done or a way of doing. So things done in the way of wood is carved wood paneling. Does that make sense? Yeah? Alright. Charcuterie. So charcuterie means a French deli selling, say, cold cuts or meat, right? Has anyone heard of the word charqui before in Spanish? No? Yeah? So it's a bit of a more not very common word. So you have charqui, and it's also in Portuguese. But so that is like shredded meat, basically. So they're related because, going back to the Romance languages, what are some other words besides French that came from Latin? Spanish? So, quick recap of the Romance languages. You had Latin that went to French, Spanish, Italian, Portuguese, all of these languages that came from Latin. So, they're all related. So you see words that are related. The next one, confiserie. Has anyone watched the Scripps National Spelling Bee on TV? Yeah? A few of you. Okay, good. It's really exciting. The one this year was super exciting. But if you haven't, I strongly recommend watching. It's a lot of fun. It's like watching basketball on ESPN. It's on primetime ESPN. In my opinion, it's more exciting than basketball. I mean, of course. But confiserie was actually the word that the second place speller got out on in 2011 or 12, around that time. Confiserie. Really cool word. The speller was Laura Newcomb from Canada. It's an international thing too, basically, the National Spelling Bee. But confiserie means a shop where you can sell candy or cake or pastry. What English word do all these things fall under that sounds kind of like confiserie? Yes, good job. So, confection and confiserie are very closely related. They're basically the same thing. In fact, confiserie has confectionery in the definition. So, back into eri, the thing or way of doing, right? We were talking about how, you have and in English, right? So someone who does, in French it's eur, and in English it's er, or even ist. Back into here, confiserie, right? You have confection. You have, what is a person that makes confections? Confectioner. So, er in English, confectioner. And then you have a place that makes confections. Any ideas? Confectionery. So, let's write this on here. C-O-N-F-E-C-T-I-O-N-E-R-Y. Can you guys see this? That's near the bottom. But so, confectionery is a place that sells confection. And a confectionery is the same exact thing as a confiserie. French word, mostly English word, still has Latin in it. Makes sense. And the next one, gendarmerie. Has anyone seen Pink Panther? Yeah? So, in case you've seen Pink Panther, you might remember that other uniforms that they're also being called that. What is the French police force called? Gendarme. So, gendarmes are the French police force, and the gendarmerie are a collection of French police. So, the gendarmerie are the body of soldiers or police officers in France. Okay? What word does it look like it's related to? Yeah? Grenade? Interesting thought. I'll get to that. Yeah. I'm sorry? Genre. I'm not sure. But, what is it called when you have a weapon? Armed. It's really interesting. So you can notice words that have different meanings that are present in other words with similar meanings. And it's really cool. Grenade. Interesting thought. So a grenade actually comes from pomegranate. They're related. Because what happens when a grenade explodes? Does anyone know? the latter part mostly. So when a grenade explodes, it takes like a whole bunch of the metal that's in the thing, and it explodes into little tiny bits of pieces of metal, right? Yeah? Aid. It is an aid word. And so when a grenade explodes, you have these little pieces called shrapnel, right? In case you've watched Iron Man, he talks about having shrapnel stuck in his chest, which is why he has to have the thing. Alright. But apart from that, the reason it's called a grenade is because all those pieces of shrapnel are kind of like these seeds inside a pomegranate, right? Because if you look at the word pomegranate, what does gran sound like? Granule, or grain. So what is grain?
Like a tiny part of rice.
Yeah, like the stuff you eat, like rice or wheat. So they're like little pieces, right? So you have like granules. So let's write that on the board. Interesting patterns you can notice between words, and they can help you spell. So you have grain, right? Grain. Then you have granule, right? You have pomegranate. Okay, side note. Does anyone know what palm means?
Yeah, like this.
So palm means apple. Does anyone happen to... Yeah. Yes, I can take the microphone. Got it. Sorry about that. So, palm means apple, alright? Does anyone happen to know what tomatoes are called in French? Anyone who happens to speak French? Close. So, tomato in French is pomme de mer, which means apple of the earth. Think about that. Where do tomatoes grow? And what do they look like? Yes. Does it make sense now? It makes a lot of sense. So, tomato in French equals pomme de mer. Mer meaning earth in this case. Earth. So pomegranate, and then that went to grenade. They're all related, right? And back to here, you have bizarrerie, an odd, bizarre quality. Okay? Because you've seen the word bizarre, right? Yeah? Okay. Now, you get to watch me spelling. Lots of fun. Fun for you, not so fun for me.
The word is Furbery.
Oh.
Furbery, can I have the definition, please?
Trickery, deception.
Furbery, can I have it used in a sentence?
The professional magician is a master of Furbery.
Furbery, can I have the etymology?
This word is from French.
Are there any alternate pronunciations?
No alternate pronunciations for Furbery.
And can I have the part of speech?
This word is a noun.
Furbery. Furbery. F-O-U-R-B-E-R-I-E. Furbery.
That is correct.
That wraps a second round of both of them
Getting their words right. So you're two spellers going and spelling words correctly each round. So, what did you notice in the word Furbery? Yeah?
The E-R-I-E.
Yes, so it has E-R-I-E. Anything else? Fur. F-O-U-R. So it's actually not completely related to 4-4, but it has the same spelling. Now, you get to watch another video of me spelling after this. So L, and the videos are fun, aren't they? Yeah? Alright, that's good. So L and et. So what L and et are diminutives. What does a diminutive mean?
Like a small.
Yeah, it makes it small, right? Or like small, basically. What's a famous character that has something related to L at the end of the name? Disney? Belle. There's Belle, and there's another one. The one, there's Tinkerbell, but there's also the one that has birds and mice that help her out. Cinderella. Yes, good. So Ella is basically L, and it's a diminutive. So basically, you have words like aquarelle. What does this painting look like? Not the thing, but like the style of painting. Watercolor. Yes, good. So what does aqua mean? Water. Yes. So in Spanish it's water. In French, does anyone know what water is in French? O. Also aqua. So you have aqua, that's like a Latin thing. And you also have O. But aqua, and then there's an R in the middle, but then L, so the diminutive, makes a watercolor style of painting. There is quenelle, which is a food ball. It's food, basically. There's passerelle. I'm sorry? You're hungry already? Oh, there's more. So there's food there and food here. So there's passerelle, right? So passerelle means basically like a bridge, because what do you do on a bridge? You pass over it. Yes, good. So passerelle is something that you pass over, and the L is diminutive. Over here you have blanquette. It's white sauce for food. So what does blanc mean? Yes, blanc means white. And then et is diminutive. So you have little white, which is like sauce. In case anyone's seen like a military uniform, or in this case like a sailor uniform, you may have seen an epaulette. So an epaulette is that little bunch of shoulder cords at where it's pointing to with an E. And épaule, E-P-A-U-L-E, actually means shoulder. So someone break it up into parts. Epaulette. Yeah?
Okay, so small shoulder.
Basically, small shoulder. So you have E-P-A-U-L-E, which means shoulder. And you have plus E-T-T-E, diminutive. So you have small shoulder, right? And that's the bunch of shoulder cords. And then brochette. So a brochette is a bunch of meat and other foods on a skewer, which is then grilled, just for the point of food. Yes, it is. It's basically a kebab. So skewered, meat, grilled, same thing. Yeah.
Also, general and kernel.
Yes, they are. So general and colonel are both French. Good notice. And then now is a challenge word that's not up there. Someone tried to spell salinelle. It means a mud volcano that erupts salty mud. Salinelle. Yes. Close. So the spelling was S-A-L-L-O-N-E-L-L-E. But I'll give you a Salinelle, a mud volcano with salty mud. Not exactly. So salinelle, I'll give you a clue. What is a solution that has salt in it? Like a spray or a solution? Saline. So, how do you spell saline? Yes, collective. S-A-L-I-N-E. All of you were saying it at the same time, which is good. Yeah, oh, okay. I'll take the microphone. Got it. So, saline, right? You have S-A-L-I-N-E. You have S-A-L-I-N-E. And then, what's the diminutive in this case? Salinelle. How do you spell that? E-L-L-E. So, plus E-L-L-E. And you can effectively take one of these E's away. And you end up with S-A-L-I-N-E-L-L-E. And that's salinelle. Alright? Does that make sense? Yeah? So you have a diminutive added to salt, or salty. And that's salinelle, which is a mud volcano with salty mud. Right? Yeah? Yes, salty mud. Now you get to watch me spell a word with an L.
The word is aiguille.
Aiguille. Can I have the definition, please?
A sharp, pointed pinnacle of rock commonly found in glaciated mountains.
Aiguille. And can I have the etymology?
This word is from French.
Aiguille. Am I saying it correctly? Aiguille?
Aiguille.
Can I have it used in a sentence, please?
The aiguille glistened in the sun.
Aiguille. Are there any alternate pronunciations for aiguille?
Aiguille.
Aiguille, aiguille. Am I saying it correctly?
Aiguille.
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 Can I have the definition one more time, please?
A sharp, pointed pinnacle of rock commonly found in glaciated mountains.
And it's French, right?
This word is from French.
Aiguille. Can I have the definition one more time?
A sharp, pointed pinnacle of rock commonly found in glaciated mountains.
Aiguille. Aiguille. A-I-G-U-I-L-L-E. Aiguille.
That is correct.
Again, and now we're going to head into round 10.
So, aiguille, right? It's a sharp pointed pinnacle of rock, right? Now guess what? You can take the word aiguille, add an et to it, and it actually becomes another sort of military cord. That is spelled. So how was aiguille spelled? Yeah. A-I-G-U-I-L-L-E, right? So you have A-I-G, that's an A, not a G. G-U-I-L-L-E, and you can add an et plus et, and take away an E because you don't really aiguillete, and you end up with A-I-G-U-I-L-L-E-T-T-E, and that is another sort of uniform chord. So, some color words before we end. So, what is an eggplant called in French? An aubergine. So basically, the pronunciation right here, not with a G sound as a G or a G, it's actually G. So just like, you remember how AGE was age, right? So the G makes a J sound in French in many cases. Just like that, in aubergine, the G makes a J sound, right? And then you have words like Burgundy, which happens to be also a region in France, which creates this type of wine. And it's also the name of a color, the color of that wine made in that region of France. So you have Burgundy, right? Has anyone seen any of these words before? Yeah, which ones? Burgundy, yeah? Burgundy, yeah.
Burgundy and framboise.
Yeah. So this one, interesting. So remember how I said the key thing about French words is their pronunciation, right? Yeah. So this one that looks like framboise, right, is actually framboise. So the pronunciation right here, the A with two dots on top of it is a ah sound, and the W and an A is wa. So a BWA is bois, and we have a Z. So framboise. And this N that's all the way tiny up at the top is supposed to be a nasalized N sound. So instead of being framboise, it's framboise. It's like you're saying an N but not. Framboise. And just like that, this one is Jacqueminot. Okay. This one is Ponceau. It's a red color. It's like a food color. And the one at the right is a coquelicot, which is a color of red. It's kind of like a flower. So, does anyone notice any patterns in these words?
Yes, they're all color words.
They're all color words. Good. But apart from that, over here and over here, any similarities?
They're all red colors. They're all red.
Apart from the red, yes.
The Jacqueminot and the
Coquelicot? Yeah.
coquelicot, they both have OT, but the
Yes.
T isn't pronounced.
Yes, good. Great observation. So, French, if you have a T at the end, in many cases, it's not pronounced. Yes, it's silent. So you have Jacqueminot and Coquelicot or Coquelicot. And both of them have an OT at the end, but the T isn't pronounced. And we're going to see that in some more words on the next slide. But also, you have other words that we'll be noticing too. So over here, the first word you see, matelot. So it's actually not matelot, like how I thought it was the first time I saw it. Matelot, right? But you have an MAT for mat. And then you have an L and an O with the line over it. So an O with the line over it is O. An L and an O with the line over it is low. And you end up with matelot. Okay? So matelot is this blue color. And just like Coquelicot and Jacqueminot, you have an OT at the end with a silent T. Alright? And the next one, Jouvence, is another shade of blue, right? That's a really cute baby, right? And then you have verdigris. Has anyone heard of the word verdigris before?
Yes.
Yes. Possibly in science class? Because, does anyone know what it is? What verdigris is?
Yes, it's like a blue-green color that I see on the ground.
Kind of. So it is a blue-green color, but does anyone know what it's actually made out of? Yeah?
It's copper, but after it rains and it is just there for a long time, and it will become that greenish color.
Yes, good. So you know when you have iron, right? And it rusts? Because you have water and oxygen and a reaction, so it oxidizes and creates rust. When copper oxidizes, you end up with a coating of verdigris on top of the copper. So verdigris, what is green in Spanish? Yes. Verde, good. So when you have verde and add it to verdigris, the beginning of this word means green, right? Which makes sense because the color is green. Another word for the same copper oxidized coating. Does anyone know? No? Okay. Patina. Anyone want to try to spell patina? Yeah? Patina. It's a green-blue coating on oxidized copper. Close. Yep. Yes, good. Alright, so patina is, green markers, that's cool. So P-A-T-I-N-A is patina. And it means the same thing as verdigris. And then, who's heard of the word teal? Yeah, what is teal? It's a color? What color is it?
It's a bluish green color.
Yeah, it's like turquoise. It's like bluish greenish, right? Bless you. So teal, in French, is close to blue-green, but it's a bit more yellowish. And it's actually spelled like this. Teal. It's a bit different. T-I-L-L-E-U-L. Right? And that is similar, but not exactly the same as, you know how in Spanish, you can have a double L and you end up with a y sound? Right? Give you examples of that? Yeah? Yeah. You have llama. Words like pollo, too, where you have chicken, P-O-L-L-O. And then tortilla, right? It's not tortilla, but it's tortilla, T-O-R-T-I-L-L-A. Similar to that, you have teal. It's not exactly the same because it's French, but for this word it works. L-L makes a sort of y sound, and you end up with teal. Another word over here. Can you even notice something interesting with this word based on the pronunciation over here? Also checking if you know how to read it. Yeah.
The T is silent.
Yes, but also apart from the T being silent. Yes, good. So it can actually be said with or without a T. So you can have peridot over here, dot, or peridot. So with the silent T at the end in French, or without. And who's heard of the word beige before? Yeah, beige. It's like boring brown, yeah. And then you have écru, which is similar to beige. Sometimes it's the same, sometimes it's a bit different. And I'm gonna end up with a few common cooking words that you've seen, and cheeses. Oh no.
So many.
Cheeses. Good. So who's seen, have you ever walked by the cheese section in the grocery store before? Yeah. Doing, ooh, sometimes they give out free samples. So brie, has anyone tasted brie? No? Yeah? So, brie, right? It's soft, right? So you see this picture and it's like squishy almost. Camembert is even more squishy at the moment in that picture. Notice anything with camembert, as it's pronounced, camembert. Yeah?
The T is silent.
The T is silent. Good. So the T is silent. Someone said, yeah? Chevre. What's up with that? Yeah? The T is silent. Great job. So, the T is silent, right? Now, has anyone, all these are grocery store words because like we were talking about before, French food, right? So, have you ever walked by the section in the food where they sell roast meat? Yeah. So, the thing where they take stuff like a chicken and turn it around over a grill or a fire, what's that called? Yes, good. Rotisserie. Do you notice any similarities between rotisserie and anything on this page? Brie, right? Brie and rotisserie. So let me write rotisserie on the board. Here's the microphone. So, rotisserie. How do you spell rotisserie? Yeah?
R-O-T-I-S-E-R-I.
Almost. So it's actually, yeah? Close. Good, you got the E-R-I-E, right? So it's actually R-O-T-I-S-S-E-R-I-E. So, rotisserie. And what does it have at the end? Yes, good, E-R-I-E. Because what does E-R-I-E mean? Doing something, a collection of things, right? A way of doing something, things done in some way. So rotisserie is both rotated and roasted. And between those two, you can find a way to combine them and get rotis. Alright? And we're pretty much done by now. Let's just take a look at a few common French words, and you'll be free to go. Yeah, croissants, right? Spanish, Italian, Portuguese, right? Who remembers what the languages are called that came from Latin? Romance languages, good. So, Spanish, Italian, and Portuguese, that's why they're together, are because they're all Romance languages. And you can find a lot of similarities between these languages.